Hello, everybody. Arxis here with a little experiment, which I wanna call a one-man podcast, which is pretty much exactly how it sounds. So first, I wanna explain logic behind this decision, like do these things. Um, I watch, more like listen, a few podcasts, and one of them, which I really like, recently ended. They didn't like official video, or want to say like thanks and goodbye, and it was Potaku, which is podcast, which is about anime. And I actually was kind of sad because I really like this thing. And I was like, you know, there's like this empty hole in my life, and I wanna, I wanna fill that hole with something. So cannot, why I can't make my own podcast? But I think like a real meat of every podcast is having some people which I don't. So there's only me. So if you expect like somebody somebody else to talk, no, that's not the place for you because this is be like literally me like sitting and talking and there's nothing else. So if you don't like this kind of thing, then that's probably will be disappointed. I know like many people probably enjoy podcasts because like for example, right now you may heard some clicking and noises. That's because I'm right now actually playing Minecraft. I don't record it because I'm playing like just for myself, which is one of the reasons which I explain in one of my videos, recent series which I did, which I call Inconsistent Let's Play, because it feels like having shine on my leg, and I'm like, man, I have the settings and I need to continue and upload videos, and that's not fun. And if there is one message, something with people who have really big, very, really successful channels telling me, like as advice from smaller channels, and mine is definitely small. Maybe it may or may not change in future. Who knows? Everything's possible. But they basically say, don't force yourself. Like, do things which enduring. And so this is what I did. Inconsistent gameplay. But one thing. Um, So this is why I play Minecraft and don't record it. And one thing which I really like about podcasts is because Minecraft is known for many things, but Minecraft is Minecraft is game which is incredibly time consuming. It's like if you wanna make base and build something cool, it usually take lots of time. And listening podcast while you're playing Minecraft, or some people may can do like other things which are time consuming. Like for example, you can play some MMO and do some like grinding. These kind of things they take a lot of time. So listening to podcast is really reason why these things are really podcasts are really good for this kind of thing. So yeah, so if there is somebody who wanna join me and like being co-host and we can like discuss things together, let me know, leave me comments on or message and we can try like I can try install Skype or something similar. I actually never did this kind of thing, but we will see how things goes. So yeah, I okay. Now another thing which I wanna explain is I wanna explore some topic. I my channel is primary for gaming, but I like all kind of nerdy stuff. I like traditional sci-fi such as Star Trek or Star Wars. but I think I'm bigger fan of the Star Trek than Star Wars. I don't know why. Probably I didn't saw that much Star Wars, so but I have nothing against Star Wars. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great series, but I just didn't see much. But yeah, traditional sci-fi I can do talking. Obviously, anime, gaming, comics. Like I'm open-minded person and I'm willing to do anything which is interesting. So if you think you have some interesting opinion on these kind of topics and you wanna discuss me, you can send me like tip if there is anything else you wanna discuss, or if you wanna join me, like I said, we can try things and see how this work. But for now, that is only me. So yeah, I think I explain everything. Um, why I'm doing this and what is the philosophy behind this idea. So yeah. Um. So today topic I choose anime because why not? As I said, one of my favorite anime podcasts recently, and I was really sad about this, and so I wanna talk anime for today. Maybe later I can explore some another nerdy topics like comic books or whatever. Um. Anyway, so anime. Anime is one of those things which is relatively new for me, and I really don't classify myself as an expert, not by a long shot. I'm just a normal guy who watch few shows and I have really good time with them. And one of the thing which people seems to really enjoy to do about anime is talking about all different aspects of anime, and I don't know because it's probably because this anime is this really thing which kind of encourage you to do such kind of thing, and I think that's probably the reason why people like enjoying talking about this stuff so much, because I know I'm not only one who doing this. You have bunch of people who doing podcasts and analyzing series and that kind of stuff. I don't want to go too deep into this kind of stuff because I don't think it's not necessary, because A, I have no knowledge for this, and B, there are people who can do this much, much better than me. I know where's my place, and I simply don't want to pretend like I'm some sort of super duper pro who know everything, because I'm not. I just enjoying the talk about this topic. So this is how things are. So yeah, anime. There's so many interesting things which I wanna talk. So I think I change as the topic, or more likely a subtopic. It's anime or series which I enjoy a lot, and I watch lots of them. Some people, for good reason, may think this kind of thing is kind of stupid, if not primitive, but I don't really care. And it's harems. Harems are, yeah, you know what I mean. I mean, my pronunciation is probably very bad, but like I said before, my English is not perfect. Hopefully, everybody does understand me. So that's the thing. So why I like harem so much? I don't know. I mean, you have this strange setup, like one dude he who is like surrounded a bunch of hot girls, and they kind of like him, and it's really interesting. See this weird situation and see how the main protagonist deal with this. This is probably the reason why I like this so much. Unfortunately, most of the harems are fairly really stereotypic, and they do the same type of thing with really not too much progression or innovation. They just do same thing over and over again, and that's is a little disappointing to me because there are few series which I like a lot, but many of them are really not that bad. In fact, they are pretty bad, and that's really disappointing for me because I do like this thing, but having story with this setup, it's really difficult. Like, I think big problem here with this kind of thing in general is many people who like can arguing about things like story and character development and this kind of thing. That is all cool, but I think I had a feeling like many people kind of forget anime is many things, and anime is one thing which many people seems to like forget, and that is anime. It's a business, which means companies which produce anime, they wanna make money. And that is actually something which many people, I'm not sure if they realizing this. I have the feeling like many people actually ignoring this topic, and basically they kinda avoiding it, which is a little disappointing for me because there's like one huge thing, and that is basically if you making like harem and you can like complain about like main protagonist is really this bland like guy who is unable to do anything despite the fact he's surrounded of bunch of beautiful girls, and he just no, I really don't know. He like I saw her naked and she really liked me and I'm so embarrassed, and that thing is really stupid. But at the same time, they really cannot do too much about this. I mean, they are the way how things can be done, be feel new and original, and actually do something interesting with this genre. But they don't do this because it's dangerous. It's really tricky to do something new, and they know if they make some series exactly the same way, which many people complain, especially with the harems. Um, they basically um, know, and they probably realize there is some problems, but they doing things the same way all the time simply because it's work. Because there is always people who buy this stuff, and that make them sure they have some profit. So to me, I am realizing this, but still I have this hope, this hope somewhere in the future, one some individual who make anime will be like do something, have a courage and money to do something new and original, who kind of break these stereotypes and make some harem which will be actually good. And I actually have even a few suggestions how this can be done, because if somebody thinks like there is no way to make harem good, I disagree. I think really big problem here is, except what I already say, that is like people have, they are afraid if they try something different and it's not sell, because it may sell but it's may not, so they better, instead of trying something risky and new, they more likely do the same thing because it's work, they know that. So that is the one thing which pretty much stopping them. But I'm pretty sure there are many explored, unexplored things how stories such as harem can be done. So let me give you a few examples. For example, I am not expert on Japan, and I everything which I said right now it's based on my current experience. So there is a possibility I'm wrong with something, and if you know I'm wrong, then feel free and correct me. But one interesting way how harem series can be made, it's in Japan, and I don't mean like current Japan. I mean like old Japan. Like in a time when like I was like samurais and these old days. Like women in Japan in these days, they, far as I know, they really don't have like they was not equal men like at all. And there were these rulers. I believe they were called shogun or shogun. I'm not sure if I say this correctly. Probably not. But the people who know what I'm talking about, they most likely know. My point is here. There was something like kings or emperor or something kind of like this. And at the time, and this is not a fiction. This is, far as I know, an actual thing which really used to happen back in old Japan. They had an all harems, which mean there was this like kind of like king who have like really huge power and influence, and he have this his own harem, which was like there was a bunch of women he which they was pretty much he pretty much owned them, and he can do whatever he wants. So he can like have sex with them, which I'm sure most of the like these rules did, because what is the point to have a harem? This is pretty much, at least far as I know, like its origin of word harem in the first place. And I think will be interesting make basically a story which is based off things that actually happen. Not necessarily there's big difference between inspired by history or based on history. That's two different things. So maybe you can have this story which is like from old Japan, which is about like some ruler or king who just died and his son basically take his place, and because he is a new ruler and everyone around him simply expect he establish his own harem, because this is what the rulers but these days did. It's actually because one thing with the harems is there is this one thing, like there is this moral impact. Like everybody know, like rules are simple. One guy can have only one girl. This is how things goes. But in this story, and this is actually one thing, because you make story, pretty much every story, and not just only in anime, but pretty much everywhere, pretty much every story, with exception of story which literally tell you based on true story. Everything else is work of fiction, and this is something which give people who make these stories big freedom. They can do pretty much everything what they want, and if somebody think like idea of one guy having like bunch of girls just for himself it's like not normal or it's not moral, you can always use some sort of plot twist which give you some artificial reason why he can do this, why such a thing is moral. Like For example, you can say like make story about guys who like is transported on another planet, which is like almost females, and pretty much all member of the race are women because males was for some reason like destroy some sort of disease. So like ratio, like they are males in their race, but they are incredibly rare, which actually provide many opportunity to do something and use this as a story. Because first, because it's like the rate that they raise pretty much dying, and they need male, but there really isn't too many of them. And if you have one guy having multiple girls, that is basically good thing because first all these girls realize like they need a share guy because there is so really a few of them, they have basically no option if they want to have a kids one day. And if all these girls are okay with that, then I don't think there is anything which can be like not moral having multiple girls. So if you in a story provide some sort of explanation and say like how these things happen, then that is actually a really good way how good harem can be made. Or there is another thing which I think there is actually few harems which did this. There is another idea which I have. Like imagine you have story which happens somewhere in the future, and like when humanity like develop faster than light traveling. So and they have you have this spaceship which traveling through the hyperspace, and suddenly there is um some things go wrong, and there is accident, and they basically crash landed in the empty planet, and only survivors is like one dude and like six girls. Like good news, that is enough for enough food so survive without problems. But the chance to be rescued because they are somewhere middle universe and they have no idea where they are. The chance to be rescued, it's pretty much zero. And they obviously do everything what's necessary to survive, like make some base and find some food, that kind of thing. But eventually, at some point in the story, these girls may realize there's basically no chance to be rescued, so they most likely spend the rest of their lives here. And there is only one guy to choose, which I think is like pretty much perfect setup for harem series because I mean you can still arguing like one guy having a bunch of girls, that's not moral. But if you realize the situation which they have here, it's like, oh yes, that's true, but at the same time, like they have no choice to do anything else, and it will be in this interesting thing. So if you basically explain how these things happen, effectively using like plot twist, that's like really powerful tool if you wanna create some sort of story, because you can provide some rational explanation why this situation happened, and why all those characters act the way how they act. So that was only a few examples. I'm pretty sure there is much more ways how things can be done with the harems. So despite the fact harems being this oh, that's interesting. Uh like really stereotypic. You can still create new things. You need just little of courage to do that. So, despite the fact most of the harems are really stereotypic, I still have this hope one day, and maybe some harems would be actually good and provide something. Another thing which I think hold harem harems back is the fact. Let's be honest here. Many of them have really strong like this focus on being sexual and hot and spicy, except they are not. Uh, that is one thing which is like make this available, this series available for many people. You can, but at the same time, you need add basically something which make things spicy, but at the same time you cannot go too far. And I think this is another thing where many anime series, well, not just the harems, but anything which have some fun service, which is pretty much almost everything these days, where they fail horribly. Because I think one thing which is problem here, it's Japanese people. They seems, and maybe I'm wrong, so but I think they seems to have this really strange mentality about sex and sexual things. I think you can make really interesting things and show and make them spicy without showing anything like too much too much obvious like this kind of things. You can do it. You really don't I can step into one example. Maybe some people granted it's not anime, but there's this one movie. Uh, and I believe English name is American Pie. So it's a comedy about a bunch of horny teenagers who like want a sex but they don't have any, and many things happen. And if you think about it, this story is a lot about sex, but there really isn't too much sex in it. Like you have a people who talking about sex, who trying to have sex, but they don't. Which I think this is a really interesting method. Do kind of spicy things without being like too inappropriate. So this kind of thing, and there's very few anime who actually use this method to do this kind of stuff. Usually you have some random panty shots, which, let's be honest, that's really not how you make things fun. In fact, I think panty shots are uh pretty like annoying. It's not like sexy or stimulating or whatever at all. In fact, I think it's pretty disgusting because honestly, who cares about panties? Like, I can tell you who. Perverts. People who have fetish on this kind of stuff. Which, honestly, it's all kind of sick. And if you get turned on by staring at the girl's panties, that is not okay. That is not normal. I mean, in Japan, they are kind of like probably think about this stuff of different because I saw some documentaries, so I know in Japan there are these shop where I'm not kidding. You can buy used girls' panties and do whatever you want with them. Which, if somebody is really turned on by this kind of stuff, then I feel bad for you because you were a pervert and shame for you. Shame on you. So that is not how you make things sexy or spicy or this kind of things. There's much more. way how you can do same thing, and you can be a little more creative about this stuff. You can do like sex scenes, like imagine like scene where you have a sex between two characters of different gender. How you can do this without being too direct, showing too much, and somebody say, "Ah, this is 18 plus. Don't show this thing." Like, I think there are many different way how you can do this. You can show, like, imagine you have this couple like going through the hall, and they hold hands and then talking, and based off their conversation, it's fairly obvious they just planning to have sex like right now. And the screen kind of follow them. Then they reach the room, or more specifically, door, and then go inside the room. Obviously, one has sex. Close the door behind himself, but screen don't follow them, and you don't know what they're doing here. You cannot see anything, but you can hear them like talking. And this is the part when you can be really creative and give anybody like idea what they're doing without showing anything. And if this kind of thing is done right, it can be really, really, really hot, really, really sexy without showing anything specific. You can have conversation where she says something like, "Oh, it sounds like somebody's heart," and he's like, "Oh yes, of course I am like, who wasn't be in a situation like this?" She's like, "Okay, so let's do something about this." And he is like, "Oh yes, that's great." And you have no idea what they're doing. You may imagining what they're doing, but that's the one thing which make things better, because most how I express this, most like sexy part of your body is in fact your brain, because things which you can imagine, they are always better than reality. And this is where this opportunity do this kind of things. And I don't think too many anime actually do this, which is very disappointing, because there is many things how you can make some scenes, make them like really hot and really steamy, and without showing anything specific. Like you're having characters, and or you can have a scene where you can like see a floor of the room, and like there's like some underwear which making like very obvious the characters just getting undressed. And there's, like I said, there's like many things how you can make really spicy scenes without showing too much. And in the end, these kind of things are much, much more stimulating and sexy than some like random panty shots. Like seriously, this thing is awkward as hell. They are not sexy at all, and yeah, this kind of thing can be. There's much more better way how this can be done. Speaking of which, I like I said, there's most shows don't doing this. There's quite a few shows which did certain elements of harms well, but there is basically no perfect shows. Not yet. I have this hope one day will be, and I think one of the reason why it's not here, because there's many people who did really great anime, like you have this anime with this really like positive reputation, like being one of the greatest anime ever, such as Cowboy Bebop or Steins Gate, or well, there's only these few which I was able to remember right now. But there's much more anime which can doing this, and if you imagine like somebody who creates some of those really really great anime and give them like this task, make a harem which will be actually good and not full just a bunch of stereotypes. If they can do such a thing, I believe they can. But the problem is harem as the genre itself, it's not taken too seriously. So even if there are like people who are capable of create something really really great, they didn't do this because harem as a genre is not taken that too seriously. But I believe there is still potential to make some really interesting show because this is not only about sex, it's a lot about like people. And let's be honest, like there is really there is certain level of connection between love and sex, even if these two things, each of them is its own thing, but there is certain level of connection because let's be honest, there is a certain role which is done for human reproduction and like basically nature when people reproduce, but because we become too smart and our intelligence grow in a point where we basically can say, well, we don't need a sex. Why? We have free will, so we don't need to waste our time for something such as sex and do something much better. And this is why things such as love exist. I know there are people who probably disagree with me, and I don't really care. But basically, love, love is a something which exists pretty much create this bond between two people. Because if you have like um, at this point, at this point, like reproduction in great numbers is really not the issue. In fact, there is little too much people on our planet, and they grow crazy fast. And in future, that this can create some big troubles. So people like are more. It's like about love instead of sex, but at the same time, like why people love each other because in the future they can create family and eventually have a kids, which basically mean sex is a simply natural product of relationship. So they eventually will be sex. That is something which will happen eventually. So you have same time like the situation like characters doing like freak out about seeing. Wow, that's actually interesting. Ah, okay. Yeah. Where I was. Okay, yeah. Uh, you have people who like eventually have sex because they have a relationship, because they love each other, and eventually they have a family. And people can be like act like really have this really ridiculous reaction, and like they act like, oh, sex is dirty and it's inappropriate, and you have to, especially with anime and like harem and homes and ecchi, you have this really people who treat the sex like something um, which is really extreme. On one side, you have these characters which are extremely shy and like, oh, they holding hands, and that is so perverted. But it's not. If you have relationships, then a relationship and holding hand is completely normal. There's no reason like blushing like crazy and do this kind of thing. and then at the same time you have characters which are extremely perverted. It feels like they don't know where is the line between like normal, and they have always these extreme reactions about these kind of things. And I think that is the problem here, because they really don't treat sex like something which is simply part of their life. A true is one thing. In harems, that is not completely normal situation, because in a normal family you have normal one guy, one girl, they have relationship and they have family, which eventually they have sex and that kind of things. For anime, when harem, you have these you have characters which actually have one main character, which is a male. If you watch some reverse harem, then it's a female, which is surrounded by a bunch of characters of opposite gender, and that is not something which feels normal. But at the same time, like I said, you can use some sort of clever plot twist, which actually you can um, pretty much explain this kind of behavior, like why people doing this. And what the hell is this? Okay, so you have those characters who have this situation, and you need to explain how they act this way. Like there's this one thing which I heard uh, before some time. There's basically, how long can one guy dating two girls? And answer is only as long, only until one of them find out, which is really very true. I mean, if you like trying having two girls, then you asking for troubles. And I can, yeah, in real life these things don't work as much. In anime, however, like I said, it's a fiction, and therefore it's um, actually pretty not necessarily acceptable, more like to expect something like this. Man, one thing which I need, something which, um, not only in harems but many other anime series in general. Anime is known for one another thing. I mean, anime in general, and that is anime is weird. Sometimes you have some show which you can actually take seriously, and then have some others which are weird. But I'm open-minded person, and I'm able accept and successfully process all kinds of weird things. But there is one thing which I need, and that is explanation. Give me some rational explanation how this weird situations happen. And if you give this to me, then I have no problem. I am able to process pretty much anything, no matter how weird it is. If you have things which are on a slightly weird, and I don't have this explanation, then I probably don't like it. This is one thing which is kind of big deal with the anime, or harems specifically, and that is, if you have this kind of thing, it's you can say like, yes, it's fictions, yeah, you cannot take this seriously, but I think if you have some explanation, this can be better. um so I think like this, to me, it's like three important pillars which good harem should have. And I can like point some specific series as example of this thing being right. So first thing which a good harem should have, at least I think, it's a good starting point. Basically, you need to have some good point where show start. Probably one of the best starting points in a harem, which I saw like so far, it's most likely infinite status. Because as a harem, there's many things like infinite status is not like best harem like which I see like so far, but um, if there is one thing which Infinite Status did right, then it's like have a really good starting point. Because basically in a story you have these power status because nobody convinced me like Infinite Status is actually max because they are not. I don't believe that. Um, you have these power suits called Infinite Status, and they are like really powerful machine which are used for purpose of combat, but for some reason which unfortunately wasn't explained too well, they can be pilot only girls. Why? I don't know, but for there must be some reason why it is happening. I don't think if in show was explanation why only girls can pilot an IS, but this is how things are. So we can explain. We don't know. We don't know what, but we no. We don't know why. We just don't know what exactly happening. But the point is, there is this one only guy who is a man and who can actually be pilot of infinite status, which is a really good starting point for Horan because obviously because he only other pilots are girls, and obviously his talent can be wasted because there are potentially many men who can be really good pilot of IS because naturally like nature wanna men be pretty much warriors. This is not sexism. This is simply true. Because it's not very practical if you create a species of the human race and want to make them good with everything. So this is why nature say, you know what? Let's make women with good with certain things and a man with some other things. And one of the things, one of the primary purpose which male body was created is basically become a fighter. This is pretty much reason why we are this way. Like I said, this is not sexism. I'm just really realistic, and there is some really serious science behind this. I mean, it's more like if I give you example how this kind of thing work. So imagine like men and women being like characters in a RPG game. W- Both men and male and female they have like the same number of skill points, but in different stats. So in the end, men and women's are they have same potential, but they're using this potential different way. So this is how things are. So because of this, there are potentially many men who can be great IS pilots, but because they cannot write IS, then their potential is wasted. And suddenly there is one guy who can write it. So if they find out why, they can be able to overcome this limitation and potentially more men can pilot IS. So the most logical thing what can they do is send him in an academy where he can like study, and they can study him and like this send him on academy where he can like pilot his own IS is most logical things which he can do, and obviously because all other pilots, you know, it's actually make perfect sense that he is only guy in the academy. It's like academy where it's like how much I don't know. If you start slow, then you notice like there's how many is other people on this academy. I guess it can be like, well, I'm pretty sure there's at least like 100 of girls. So he is in academy where it's at least 100 girls. I think it's probably more. 100 classmates. They are all girls. And because how story is told, because how starting point of the story it's presented, that is basically perfect way how you can start such kind of story because it's pretty much perfect way how you can start such kind of story because they give you perfect explanation how this whole situation happened and it's worked perfectly. On top of that, that's not only benefit such a good start point because another benefit is because he is only guy on this academy. That make him pretty much instantly like alpha male, which make actually sense. All these girls are like attracted to him because there are no other guys. So he have pretty much older girls for himself. And another thing which is good here is because he is not an average guy. He can pilot on a freaking infinite status. That means he is kind of special, and girls are naturally, and again, there is some legitimate science behind this thing. So you can do a science like research for yourself if you don't believe me, but believe me, there are some legitimate scientific evidence how these things work. Women's are naturally attracted with the guys who are special. So as a starting point, infinite status is pretty much perfect. Reach pretty much perfection. And I can imagine like any guy who wish to be on his place. I mean, think about it. You have a freaking power suit. You are only guy in the world who can do this, and you're surrounded with a bunch of girls. Like as a start point for a story, there is pretty much no way how this can be done better. Unfortunately, Infinite Status is it suffer with many problems which which many harem series have, like stereotype characters and many other things which causing like harems be like really stereotypic. So yeah, that kind of thing happened, and there are some other series who did different things well. But in terms of like start of the story, I think Infinite Status is probably one of the best harems with the best starting point. I don't think is anything which did this better, but yeah, in terms of start, Infinite Stratos did this thing really well. Okay, there is another move on and let's talk about another important thing in the Harem series, which is the ending. And let's be honest, most of the ending in the harems they are really bad. For well similar reason, do you really cannot do like things which make series like original because there are another limitation of the anime And it's really difficult actually. Main protagonist basically approach one of those girls and do something more than kiss or hold hands. Because if you do, then that is problem because it's won't be it cannot be classified as a harem anymore because yeah, this is how things go. And if you do this kind of thing, you immediately transform the series from being harem, become just a more romance. And if somebody watch harem, he wanna watch harem, and if you don't harem anymore, then what's the point of watching this kind of thing? So make ending correctly. It's a really is one thing which is really difficult. And question is how you can make a proper ending for harem. And I actually, there is actually one anime. I don't know if this was harem, probably not. I don't remember name. I think it's probably based on visual novel. I think this is at least impression which I have about this kind of thing. Basically, they do this thing which was really similar to um, which was really similar to Higarashi. They basically do once for a while. I mean, you have like a few episodes where main male protagonists pretty much like go after one girl, they start dating, they even have a sex, and then it's like a reset and start over. Which really isn't exactly a thing which wasn't that bad. Like my only problem with this kind of approach is because it was like your typical series which have about 13 episodes and there was not too much space. If you take like every romantic like plot lines or how you can call it, take about 2 or 3 episodes. There is obviously not too much time to finish everything, and that's kind of disappointing. But as an example, how ending of harem can be done, I think it's great example. So great ending in the harem series should be done kind of like this, like main character, and you can like find all kinds of excuse what exactly or why this exactly happened. You can say it's like time loop, or you can say it's dream which character have, or something like this, or simply ignore this everything and say it's just happened. You can have like normal ending where he like approach one of those girls and they have like a relationship and then confess their feelings and have a legitimate relationship, and then everything reset and you can watch things again. So there's basically not one but multiple endings. Everyone is dedicated different girl because obviously if you watch this kind of series, yeah, like you have some preferences and you can say I wish he and this girl but he didn't. So you can watch like basically multiple endings at the same time and choose the one which you like most, and then like do like a final ending where you can say like um things being like reset, reverse back to normal. Because if you leave like open ending, that's really bad ending for harem, I think. And Having this idea of multiple endings seems like much better solution, at least to me. So yeah, um, so I pretty much cover how this series start and how it should end. So there's one last thing which I wanna talk before I stop this because I think I'm recording about 1 hour right now, which is uh, just enough for podcast, especially for something like this. And that is how you can do stuff which is middle, how you can fill a story with something interesting. And like I said, there is multiple different thing which you can do about this kind of stuff. And that is like you can that's actually is one part which is really difficult because I really wanna see in the term of harems, like having guy who create a harem and actually succeed. Like not this kind of stuff where like there's so many girls and I really don't do anything because they are all innocent and no, that's is way too much overuse and we wanna or at least I wanna I don't but I'm sure I'm not alone. I wanna see guy who have this actual harem and actually succeed with the harem. So how you can do this? So first and most importantly, like I said, you need some good plot which explain how these things happen and say like how this happen and make this like rationalize the characters of action. Would be, for example, interesting thing and a funny thing is actually many hentai did harems much better than normal anime. Of course, they have a benefit. They can actually do like actual sex, and you have like many hentais where you have this harem where you have multiple girls, and they like, okay, we can all have sex with this guy because we can share him because apparently he is so awesome, and all girls want to have sex with him, and how these things work. But there is actually a few which provide an actual explanation how these things happen. So you can do some story. For example, one really thing which is really good and very universal, it's magic. Because you know, with magic you can do pretty much anything. So if you provide some explanation which is based of the magic, you can actually say how things happen. You basically take off any responsibility from characters in your story acting, um, doing something which is not moral and inappropriate because you can say they don't do this on their free will. They are just a victim of the situation. So you can, for example, say like you have this fantasy world where um, there was this mage who like have some plan to dominate, take over the world, but he was defeated and he take basically a curse on somebody or maybe something like he like as his revenge basically curse and say person who is cursed by this curse everybody hate you what you did to me. But one of the reason why he was defeated was because as a mage he really was pretty bad mage and he kind of sucked. So he when he throw this curse he screw up and the curse has basically opposite effect. So instead of everybody hate you because you are cursed, and instead everybody like you, and you have those characters which are pretty much affected by the curse, which effectively causing them like they like have this blind attraction for one guy, and they are pretty much victim. And it will be actually really interesting to see the things like all these girls being basically. I think one of the series which did this kind of thing really well was I believe it was the first season of High School DxD, where main character have this conversation with this secret gear of his, who basically saying like women are attracted to the power of his secret gear, and he's like, I always wanna be surrounded by lustful women, which kind of explain why all these girls are onto him. Interesting thing which some series do. Basically, those girls take initiative from a protagonist, and he really don't need to do anything. They are like you be like, hey, I am the one who choose like which girl will be with me, but they like shut up. This is our choice, not yours. Which actually kinda solve problem, but it's not perfect solution. It's obviously have its flaws. Um, so you can another thing which you can do in terms of story. There's this series. How it's called? I believe it was Planet of Cat Cuties. Maybe I um, screw up the name, but basically what happened in the almost in the end of story, like there are like three girls who like the guy, and one of them is this cat like alien, and she's like, oh hey, and in our race it's normal if one guy have a multiple girls, so that is okay, we can share him, which is a good explanation, except I think it should be like done much sooner. So you need to basically create fill like middle of the series with something like this. Basically, create bunch of the stories, and you basically can use this to fill this empty space between start and ending. Or there is actually another option which can probably be like little more provide this thing, make it like a little more serious. Basically, create a story where about there was actually one another anime which again I don't remember name, but basically what happens here was you have the guy who have like multiple girls, and he is like you can see how he wanna choose one girl over others, but at the same time you can see how he's like I like them all, and I cannot choose one other over others because I pretty much like them all. How should I do this? You can see this how he's tortured by idea of doing this because he feels bad, which actually make a lot of sense if you think about it. Because if you like multiple girls, then you are like in a situation which can be like, oh yes, there are all these girls who like me, and you can have like that will be really interesting if you have a situation and say like these girls be like, hey, that is not okay, like there is multiple girls, you should choose one of those. And he like, okay, I do this, and you can have this last episode where he is like, I really cannot do this because if I do, then I make one of you happy, but other will be disappointed. And I don't want to do this because it just feels wrong. I mean, I better like go, not none of you. And they're like, but because obviously they have all feelings for him, and they were like, no, you cannot do this. He's like, yes, I must, because there is no other way, because I'm not king. I cannot have like my own personal harems. And eventually they like, you know what, we need to find like do this, or we can like share something like this. Like I said, it's not perfect. It's really difficult and really challenging things to do for people who make anime. But I believe there is a way how this can be done, and you can do like many interesting story which explore the area of relationships. Like you can have like this guy who is basically exposed the situation. There's multiple girls like him, but he is unable to choose one over the others, because to be perfectly honest, most female characters in harems are make this way where choose one over others. It's extremely difficult because there are many. They feels really similar. I mean, I'm pretty sure like anybody, any well, primarily male who watch any uh harem, he is uh like which girl I choose if I be in a place of a main male protagonist in this show. And many times when I watch harems, and believe me, I watch many of them, I'm like, I just don't know. These girls feels like really similar. Like I can say I choose this girl, but the other one is cute too, and it's really difficult thing to say. And it will be really interesting, like make really deep story about guy who is in love with the multiple girls, and he wanna choose one, like make this different because he feels like I cannot do this because it's impossible. There's so many cute girls, and you can see like he struggle with doing this. Eventually, he don't know what to do, and maybe he can have like collapse because it's too much stress for his brain. Because, like I said, this is not abnormal situation. But if you imagine like you very thing which is in a not harem but a romance really common, it's the you typical love triangle, like guy like two girls, and he trying like make the decision choose one or the other. Imagine how much stress this must be. Like it's not the problem if you, and this is something which can have happen not only with uh, like romance, but in a different type of story. Like you have two options and they both seems the same. If one is clearly better than the others, then it's not a big deal to choose. But if all are same, then it's like really difficult to choose. And that is something which put lots of stress on your brain. And there are many people, and I'm pretty sure like somebody who is doctor can tell me like such kind of things and actually happen, because if there is too much stress on your brain, then you can legitimately collapse. Imagine how much insanely how mental pressure and stress is on guy who trying to choose between not one and not two, but about like four or five girls, which are really like almost feel the same, and he really cannot choose one over others because they are that much similar. That is almost impossible choice, and that alone, like his choice, should be like provide so much option for make like really serious story about guy who like four or five girls, and you really honestly love them all, and he wanna choose one over others, but he can because they are so much similar. That will be a really interesting story. Like, I think will be really interesting even for people who normally don't watch the harems because they think it is like a bunch of panty shots and this kind of stuff, like explore human nature, and when he trying like justify his choice. I think this provide lots of material. So if anybody telling me like there is no way how harems can be made way, they'll be like really good and provide some interesting story and are not based only on fan service. I think there is many way how this can be done. Make it good start point which explain the world and how this whole situation happened. Give it some decent ending and fill center of the show with something which is actually interesting to watch. Make characters struggle and explore this area of human relationships and stuff. There is so many things which can be done. Only problem is A, harems are not taken seriously, and B, people are scared of the doing new things because it's always risky. But I believe this thing will be done well. Good starting point, good actual story, actually realistic character, and some decent ending. I have this hope one day, maybe, just maybe, they created some harem which will be actually good and fun to watch, even for people who normally don't watch the harems. That is my ultimate dream here. So yeah, according to my data, which I have, I recording about over an hour, which is probably longest video which I ever done. So I think it's time to say goodbye for now. I hope this experiment will be good. So we will see how this works. And like I said, if you are interested, like join me. I mean, next time we can explore something another. We can talk Star Trek or Star Wars, comic books, video games, anything you want. If you think you have some actual topics you want to join me, send me message, leave comment, whatever. I can try like set up a Skype and we can do this with more people. I think will be really awesome to hear somebody other opinion about this kind of stuff. I'm open minded to any interesting topic. So if there won't be anyone else, I can do another one man podcast, just my own. I can do this. I have no problem with this. But yeah, if you wanna try this, let me leave me a message. We can try this, do this, and we will see how this works. Okay, so I think this is everything which I said for now, and I think it's a time to stop. So hopefully this was interesting. If you were not, then well, I guess you can go and listen some actual podcast, not just me, but it'll be really awesome if I can do this with more people, but right now it's just me. So yeah. Anyway, if you are interesting like some other stuff then on my channels, then it's like I don't do anything like mind-blowingly good. I'm not really. I know that. I'm doing like let's play mostly Minecraft, but there's a few other games. So if you want one of these things, feel free and check other stuff on my channel. Sometimes it's just really standard stuff. Sometimes I do things which I'm actually proud. But if you wanna watch just this, but just this experiment, then I probably do more of this stuff. It depends of situation because take the fact this take a lot of time to do. Then I can do this stuff only when I'm alone here, which is not which is something which don't happen every time, but eventually I can do this because my mom is really open-minded person and he support me which with this kind of thing. So I'm really grateful. So yeah, I think I'm done here. So thanks for your time, and I will see you later.